Hi everybody. Obviously you all know I'm Fran Killoway. I've never done this before, so it should be quite a ride, but what I can say to you is I'm delighted for the first time after such a long time to be able to talk to people. It's rather good fun. But I should introduce you to my team who are sitting here having conniptions. I've got all sorts of people around me helping me, which is, I'm not sure if it's help or not, but we'll work it out as we go through for the hour. But the person that you'll hear talking to me all the time in the background is Greg. And most of you know who Greg is, so he'll be yakking away and we'll go from there. So I believe I'm answering some questions. But what I did want to say is it's been an amazing journey and something that I've actually enjoyed immensely. And if Melina had just sit still, it would make life much easier for me. She's flapping around in the background and all I can see is paper fluttering. So at the end of the exercise, I guess in an hour, hopefully, I've covered everything I need to cover for you and I've answered most of your questions. So I guess I wait for Greg now to ask me my first question. Is that what happens?
Yeah, certainly, Fran. So the first question we have from Pat is, what is the best bit of feedback you've received about Frasil?
That's an interesting question and one that I think might surprise you. At the end of the day, the best feedback I get is when I go out and I show it to people who live with disabilities, who in fact have been our greatest advocate all the way through this, is when they tell me it sucks. We actually know the technology is amazing. We've always been told that. It's more important to me when someone tells me something sucks than when it's something great, because if it's great, you never actually get to improve it. So basically, I like to be told the technology sucks.
Very good. All right. John asks, how can Frasil be used to improve the quality of life of a person living with a disability?
That comes across, I think, in three ways. The first thing is that it basically breaks down communication, so it allows someone to be able to run the household exactly the same way as if they were operating in a normal fashion. The second thing it does is it reduces isolation, so for the first time people can actually communicate on their own terms, almost regardless of which technology they're using and which disability they have. So it's entirely up to them. But I think the most important thing it does is give them choice and it gives both the carer, the family, and the person living with disability choice, which is what we were always about.
Fantastic. All right. Next question is from Matthew, and Matthew asked some questions about my voice and how it can help a person speak when they cannot.
My voice is rather an amazing piece of technology and it's about to change. It's quite literally only 2 weeks old, but already the feedback coming back to us is that it's still inadequate. So what it's going to do now is when you come on, you can actually type into it and it will talk for you. And while other products on the market, which are equally as good, do that, the difference between my voice though is that you will be able to segregate it out into different sections. So you might have activities, you might have swimming, you might have work, and then when you click on that, it basically goes down to another 6 levels where you can actually talk. So essentially if you're locked in, 2 things happen. You can have your answers actually pre-typed and set up in there. So if you want to send an email, etc., it opens up the world to you by using it as your voice. And over time, we're actually going to take someone's voice who's mumbling and turn it into their own voice. And that's something that we're a long way down the track with, and we're extremely excited about it.
Very good. Greg, not me, but another Greg obviously, asks, do you see Frasil benefiting certain disabilities more than others?
No. What we see is that the disability is entirely irrelevant to me. As far as I'm concerned, people are just people. And if you've got a disability, I frankly actually don't care. What I do care about is giving people the ability to be able to choose how they communicate with someone, which they haven't been able to do before. So we put everything together in one place, and basically we've also built it so that it works on most devices and it works on most operating systems. And as we get smarter at delivering this after 10 years, it will be very few devices it won't work on, and for very few people it won't function for. So at the end of the day, it's a technology for all people.
Well, the next question follows on from that, because Fred asks, how long did it take you to develop Frasil?
Oh gosh, at 68, it's a number I prefer not to remember actually. It took us 10 years. And the 10 years was an interesting journey in the sense that we found that people were continually telling us how to fix it. And so in the beginning we thought we were very clever. We'd go out and we'd meet a group of people from a disability unit and we'd say, do you like it? And they'd say yes. We'd get to the end and we'd say, will you use it? No, it's missing something. And so that iteration took us 10 years and probably hundreds of tests before we finally got a product that we felt was good enough to in fact go to the market. So at this stage it's probably about 70% of its capacity.
Okay, so the next question I have for you, Fran, is David is asking how good is Frasil compared to other disability technology that's on the market?
I don't think that's a question that should be answered in the sense of is it better than something else, because I don't think that's true. I think that would be saying to me, is there one disability that's different to another? I don't see either of those two things being truisms. What I actually see is that if you want to use a piece of technology and you're used to it, then that's fine. You can use that piece of technology to use Frasil. But I think you need to remember that the last app on our tablet in particular is My Devices. And if you go into My Devices, it's at early stages, but over the next coming months you'll be able to use whatever you're used to using and connect on it in our website, or in our app rather, and then you can use Frasil using whatever you've become familiar with. So I don't think it's a question about what devices are better than other devices. I think it's a question about making sure that everybody can use exactly what they choose to use. Again, that's about choice.
Fantastic. All right. I've got another question here from John. And John asks, how is artificial intelligence being integrated into Frasil?
That's an interesting question. The thing that's about artificial intelligence is that people are afraid of it because they don't understand it. And for me, that's a shame, because it's really a wonderful piece of technology and it's something that should be used, and it's in all the wearables. And people get excited about driverless cars and buses and planes and things flying through the air. But the interesting thing is there's not much done for people living with disabilities. So what we did, we've taken over 10 years the artificial intelligence that perhaps may drive a car, etc. And we've taken that technology and we've re-engineered it and we've turned it into the technology that we're giving you today. And within that technology, it basically allows you to understand who you are. So the technology will know over time each individual user in their own time. And so fundamentally within 12 months, it could maybe have 10 million people all using it at the same time, but the technology understands each individual user and then caters to each of their needs. So I think it's a question of understanding disability and AI rather, and appreciating just how good it actually is and what it can do when it's used in the right way.
Okay, interesting. My next question I have for you, Fran, is from Jason, and he's not looking at the technology from the point of view of the person with a disability, but wants to know how Frasil can help support workers.
Support workers are wonderful people. When we first started this, we got a lot of resistance from support workers, as a matter of fact, about 4 years ago. And what we found about them is they're just wonderful people and they're very protective about their charges. And I always remember one example when someone said to me, "No, I know everything there is to know about my person and I don't need Frasil." So we asked them simple questions. What hours do you work? And they said 9 to 5. And we said, but what happens between 5 o'clock and midnight, and again from midnight to 9 a.m.? And so over a period of probably 18 months to 2 years, we started to work with support workers and we started to understand how to help them. So for example, if you're in a house and you've got 5 people who live in, instead of having 2 or 3 support workers who need to attend to everybody's needs, Frasil in fact actually communicates for each person directly to one carer, and because the barriers to communication are completely broken down, it changes the way a support worker works. So if you're in a home and you basically are trying to find out what someone needs next, it must be very frustrating, and over time it must drive them mad, not because they can't understand them, but because of the frustration trying to help them. Frasil breaks that communication down completely and makes the person who's locked in completely capable of communicating just like a normal person does.
Okay, and I'll follow on from that. How do you see the app helping disability organisations?
It does two different things for disability organisations. One, obviously, it helps the carers, as I just explained, or the support workers, because it means that the communication's open. But I think the most important thing for actual organisations is that if you're looking after, say, 500 people and you've got 600 or 700 support workers, how on earth do you know if the level of care that you're producing for each person is of a standard that the person requires? And given that in Australia in particular, I'm not quite sure about the US and the UK and India, but I highly doubt it's any different, in that the government needs feedback to understand that the money it's giving out to provide the necessary care for people is in fact being delivered. And so what the technology does in real time is it can feed a report back straight up to the support worker, to the organisation, that can come from three different places. Firstly, it's a feedback immediately from the person who's receiving the care, and secondly, it's coming back also from the support worker who provided the care, and thirdly, it allows us, the actual organisation, to then supply an answer to the government or to the NDIS in Australia and the American and UK pensions, as in Canada, India and New Zealand, and it basically says that this is the level of care that's being provided. So it's a mechanism, I suppose, that means that everybody can check to make sure the level of care that's being provided is in a standard that should be provided anyway.
Well, thank you for that. That's my own question I added in there and tacked on. We have our first comment. Mia's said, well done to Frasil.
Oh, thank you, Mia. That is just amazing. I'm really stoked in that. And I've forgotten to say thank you to everybody else who's been asking the questions, because I'm nervous, believe it or not, and that's unusual for me. So for the first 10 or so questions, thank you guys and girls. I apologise. I'll try and remember to do it from here on in.
And obviously we want to ask everybody to raise questions as we go through, because otherwise we might run out and come to a grinding halt quicker, sooner rather than later. Alright, the next question I have is from Jared, and he asks, how long until Frasil is available in other languages besides English? Frasil's,
and thank you, Jared. See, I remembered to do it. Sorry, Jared. Thank you very much for the question. I think the answer to that is twofold. One, we've just, over the last couple of weeks, or maybe 4 or 5 weeks, as Deloitte has finished building the technology for us, we've had it out there at a very high price because we needed to test it as a beta test. It's now out there in the market in all its glory, in its full pricing, which is amazing, at $1 US a week, and the phone is 80 cents a week. And I think that over time, we were going to wait 12 months, but it seems to be the push in the marketplace is much harder for us, in that we're getting a lot of requests, so we can convert it into 65 languages overnight. The reason I haven't done that at this stage is because it took us 10 years to get it right for the Western world, and I think if you're going to put it into other nations that don't necessarily follow the Western culture, then I think without the aesthetics of culture it becomes a little bit difficult to do. So we're hoping that as we collect and we understand what's happening in each country, that we can put together a library that the computer will make its own decisions, and then essentially when it's ready and it is intelligent, it will basically let us know, I suppose, when it's time to release them. But it can be converted into 65 languages.
Okay, great. The next question is going back more into the AI area. Greg asks, can you explain how the computer becomes able to learn more about the user over time?
I assume this is not you, Greg.
No, well.
Thank you, Greg. I'm assuming it's a different Greg to my Greg, because he wouldn't be game enough to ask me that. So fundamentally, how will it change over time? As you use it, as each person uses it, and as it engages differently with each family member, so it starts to learn how to engage with each user. It is intelligent. It's like a 5-year-old child. It's in early childhood learning. It's learning phonics, and it learns to think, and it understands sound. So as it starts to interact with each person, so it starts to behave the way they want the way that person actually wants it to behave. So not only does it break down the barriers to communication, it actually opens up communication so that it's on the user's terms for the first time. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, as a lot of products are out in the market, as good as they are. this product actually becomes individual to each user, and it takes all their nuances as we go. Say hi to Michelle, Jody, Liv. Hi guys, thank you very much. I'm not sure who you are, but amazing that you're here. So thank you very much. And Priyanka says to me, what a great initiative. Thank you, Priyanka. It wasn't just me. I have to say, I have a great team of highly intelligent executives who work for us, and then the teams that support those executives, from the person who cleans our building right up to our own chefs to provide safety for my team so that there's no issues of coronavirus, which is a really awful thing. And I hope everyone is surviving and doing what has to be done. But at the end of the day, this is a massive team effort, and it's a team effort that's not only about us and about myself, but it's about people who live with disabilities, their families, their friends, and the people who look after them.
Well, talking about coronavirus, there is a question here about how does Frasil help people with living with disabilities during COVID-19?
Who asked me the question?
That was Cantissa.
See, I caught you out, Greg. Yes. There you go. So thank you, Cantissa, and thank you for your interest in Frasil and what we're doing. I don't think it can do anything about the pandemic, although we'd love to try. At the end of the day, it's all about allowing people to be able to communicate from home. So even if you're not disabled, Frasil is an amazing tool that opens up communication across just about every area that you can possibly be. And so as we start going along, we create cafes, social media sites, all sorts of things that actually allow us to produce a product that's safer for most people with disabilities and our users, because we protect it from people who are predators, people who are trying to do the wrong thing. So how does it help during the pandemic? It basically allows people to actually communicate and not be feeling so isolated.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question I'm going to put to you, Fran, is from Hayley, and Hayley asks, how affordable is Frasil?
Oh, hi Hayley. I hope you're the Hayley that does my videos downstairs, because if you are, you're the only one allowed to ask that question. Essentially, it's been priced to make sure that everybody can enjoy it. We've had a lot of pushback on price. We've had a lot of people saying to us it could be charged at a much higher rate, and that's true. We could make a great deal of profit on it and make a lot of people rich, but that's not what we set out to do. What we set out to do was build it at a price bracket that people could afford. So $1 a week and at 80 cents a week for the phone, it's more than affordable. Over time, as we develop some amazing technology, for example, I'm working now with some speech pathologists, and essentially what the computer's now going to be able to do in the short term is it can take a speech program or a program that's been developed for one of our people who is locked in and learning to speak by their pathologist, and Frasil actually monitors that and helps them to learn and helps them to understand where they're up to, so that when they go to see the pathologist, they can use myself. They click on to say how they're feeling about their week, and the computer can actually give the pathologist in front of them feedback on how they've gone for the week. So it's just amazing technology in that it's not just about pushing buttons and about saying hello. It does an enormous amount more than that.
Great. And I suppose that follows up from a comment we've got from Paulina. Paulina talks about how purposeful the technology is. What would you like to add?
And so much more to the world. Paulina, you're a darling. Thank you so much. It is great and it is purposeful, but it's purposeful only because the technology itself allows you to make it purposeful. If the user doesn't want to use it, or the carer can't be bothered using it, then it's not purposeful at all. But at the end of the day, we have a little girl, 4.5, and she's teaching the world how to use Frasil. So one of the other wonderful things about this technology is in building it, we wanted to build it so it didn't require a whole lot of training, and it allows you to build it in the way that you want to use it. So it's not that you have to push this button to make it do something that everybody else does. You can push a button and it'll do exactly what you want it to do, which is exciting.
And talking about exciting, sometimes things can be unexpected. Pat has asked the question here, is what surprised you the most about how people are starting to use Frasil?
Pat, thank you. In Australia, there's a magazine coming out on the 13th, and I hope for those who are watching us around the world, and I know I have a lot of friends in the US, the UK, India, etc. I hope that you'll look up online and see a magazine called New Idea, which is basically a girly magazine, I guess, for us oldies that like to just sit and have a cup of tea and read it. But in it you'll find an article written about a little girl called Grace, and if you've been following Frasil, you'll see her everywhere on the screens. She's 4.5 years old, and Emma and her family are just blown away by Frasil, because now Mum can ask her first thing in the morning what she wants for dinner that night, just like a normal family. She actually now controls the family through Frasil. A couple of days ago she had a pain in the tummy when she was at the physio, I think one of those people, and she was crying and no one could understand what was wrong, so she got the tablet out and she opened up myself and pointed to her tummy, and she was able to say that she had a pain in her tummy. And at 4.5, I really wouldn't bother me if no one else used it, because it actually changed that little girl's life.
Well, talking of Grace, we've got a question here from Roberto. Roberto says, "Hi Fran,
Hi Roberto.
This is a technical question about the app. I see the little girl, so Grace in the videos, sometimes accidentally double clicks by accident. And Roberto asks, is there a way to slow down the app?"
Oh, God love you, Roberto. But that would be Apple. We all love Apple. Apple's such a wonderful product. If only it would do what I want it to do. So the answer to your question is, if it's on an Android, I can control that. If it's on an Apple, unfortunately, not. But we find that with her, we're going to actually adjust the way Apple actually responds to her, so that when she drags it and she double clicks, it's got a hidden area around it that actually allows us to control the way she does that. So as we get to know her more, and she represents more kids like that, then so we'll be able to start putting some blocks in. But unfortunately, we're limited what we can do with Apple. We've got far more control over Android.
And some more people to say hello to.
Oh, Nicholas, Sanjuli, is it Sanjuli? And
Yeah.
David and John and Anil and Peter. Hi guys, lovely to hear from you. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support.
Next question I'm going to ask Fran is from Nicole, and Nicole asks what's been the biggest difficulties in development of the app, and I'll then follow up that with a different question, similar lines.
I'm sorry, I was going to laugh because there's an answer that I would actually like to give, but Greg won't let me. He's such a boss. But the first word starts with D and the second word starts with H, so you can work it out for yourselves. But along the line, I think I can count on filled 2 garbage bins full of people who told me we couldn't build this. I was either an idiot, or I was a genius, or I was a woman, or I was 68, or what a load of garbage. All the way along we've just ignored them, but fundamentally they do fit in a bucket. Those that have supported it have been just amazing, and so we do have a sense of humour around that.
Fantastic. No, it has been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Yeah. The next question I had was from David, who's again talking about Grace. So can you go a bit deeper and talk about how the technology will help Grace and people like Grace moving forward?
Thank you, David. I think if I think about all the different ways it's changed her life, in the fact that she now can go to ordinary preschool, she has a support worker who goes with her, the fact that she can tell all her doctors, all her professionals where she's hurting, she can demand freckles off her 2 brothers, she can share her love around as she does. I think the biggest example is when she can say, I want to pee. I simply can't imagine wanting to go to the bathroom and not being able to, and having to hang on and hope like heck that somebody actually hears me. So I think for me the simple example of Frasil is, I want to pee now, and just like you and I can go to the bathroom, so she can now as well. But there is a funny story attached to her. Not long after she got the technology, Mum, Emma, who's just the most beautiful person I think I've ever met, and what a job. She actually finally found time to actually have a cup of tea. And she set Gracie up, and she gave Grace the tablet, and Grace was sitting there, and she left her in the lounge room, and she asked her was she okay, and she said yes, and Emma had just sat down to enjoy a piece of chocolate cake and a cup of tea, when basically all of a sudden there was an email that came through to say, I'm bored. And so for the first time ever, Emma could actually understand what was going on. But what was even funnier was Emma's dad, Mum had got, Grace's dad rather, Emma had gone out and Dad was minding Grace. And Grace sent through a message that said number 2, and he ignored it. And she sent another message through to say number 2, and eventually he rang his wife, rang Emma and asked what a number 2 is, and she said, oh, good grief, it's a poo, go and fix your daughter. So at the end of the day, he now knows what a number 2 is. I just don't think he was concentrating. But it just goes to show you how much it makes life normal for everyday people. So for a little girl to be able to say that is amazing.
The next question I'm going to ask is what you believe is unique about Frasil.
The users. It's very simple. The users are unique. Each user in their own way is unique to us. Frasil in itself, I could blind you to death for the next hour and a half about all its clever artificial intelligence and its machine learning, and that Deloitte have built it, and the BCG globally are helping us commercialise it, and PwC are there, and on and on and on it goes. But in the end, they're all just a part of the tool and the equipment that actually makes the tablet and the phone work. The people who are unique to Frasil and what makes Frasil unique are its users. And I actually have a great deal of passion for my users. And each user, no matter who or what they are very special to us. And it's what makes Frasil successful.
All right, thank you, Fran. I've got a question here from John, and John asks about Frasil helping his daughter communicate with autism. And the message talks about how it's helped cut out some of the guesswork, but John's question is about Frasil being able to help out with time management in terms of daily tasks. What can you...
Thank you, John. And if it's a John I'm thinking about, and I'm not sure it is, you have 3 beautiful daughters, I believe, who are all intellectually or disabled in some way. And I think you're just an amazing family to be able to cope with that. So it's hard for me to answer the question from your perspective, but let me try and answer it from mine. On the autism spectrum, if you're at the lower end, Frasil is absolutely ideal because it follows their routine. And we have a character coming out called Whacker. And Whacker is quite unique. You should start seeing him roughly in about a month's time. And he actually sits and he eats cornflakes with them, and when he's transferring them from, when you're trying to get them to go from liquids to solids, he goes with them and he eats and he chomps with them and he gurgles his food and he does all those sorts of things, and he rouses on the kids and the kids rouse on him, and it's all a lot of fun. If you're going up to an adult with autism, they're very rigid in their routines as a general rule of thumb, and Frasil works with that routine and it never varies. And so if their program is set and so the cameras are watching, so essentially the camera responds to them. At the top end of the spectrum, where they're highly intelligent, we're starting to work with other providers, and a young man whose name escapes me, who I supported on LinkedIn last night, and one of my team might be able to remind me of his name, has actually developed a piece of technology because he himself is on the spectrum, and it's about a sense of energising and invigorating people with autism. So rather than us competing with that, we're very privileged to be able to use him. So on the autism spectrum, it depends. Austin Lubitkin, what a delightful young man, and I saw him come in and join me on LinkedIn. So hi to you, and congratulations on what you've done, and frankly to everybody who's done anything for kids with autism. They're important to us.
Great, yes, thank you, Austin. Next question, following on that from a bit, if people feel like the app isn't doing what they want, how can they give us some feedback?
Oh heavens, there's more feedback mechanisms than you know what to do with. I don't encourage you to make a phone call, because a phone call requires us to have to charge more for the phone or more for the app, because we've got a service, a phone call centre. So it's set up on the basis that you can actually give us feedback through the app itself. You can go into the website and you can come in and you can give me feedback and comment through the website. You can actually SMS to my phone. You can give me feedback through the Instagram, Frasil, Facebook rather. I'm not familiar with all these, even though I'm on there. And LinkedIn. At the end of the day, we make it so easy for you to comment. We also have lovely Hayley, who's making lots of videos, and they're one at a time, and they're tiny little videos that actually show you what to do. And I believe tomorrow I've been lassoed to spend the day where I will actually do a video for YouTube where I do every single app and show you how it works and how you can use it. and then Greg will do a separate one as well, because he does a much more serious version than I. My sense of humour tends to get in the way. But essentially, it's all about making sure that you don't need much help from us at all. What I want in feedback from everyone is to tell me what sucks with it, and I did mean that right up front. And the essence of Frasil is it's built in such a way that the artificial intelligence and machine learning allows us to make as many changes as we need to on an individual basis. So it can have millions of component parts that operate for each person, and someone else may never see them, because we have very strong restrictions around, obviously, privacy. And so that's what makes it unique, apart from the fact that it's got everything together in one place, and obviously its price.
Fantastic. There's some more people for you to say hello to online.
Pradeep and Nimish and Santina and AJ and Mirage. I call these people my penthouse team. So hi guys, how you going? These ladies are amazing. They are the people who are connecting with you, and these are the ladies who are getting in touch with you and inviting you to do different things and letting you know that Frasil exists and all that sort of stuff. And they're just a great bunch of chicks. And it just happened to be that they are all ladies. But consequently, we also have a really good sales team that is led by a guy. So we're not all about, that wasn't meant to be anything against either. It was just my sense of humour. But hi, ladies.
Yes, hello to everyone out there. Someone out there is Peter, and Peter's had a comment and a question. So Peter's comment is, it's great to see technology improving lives for those who are most in need. Top job.
Thank you.
And Peter's question is, I have a 53-year-old friend seriously affected by Alzheimer's. He's lost his language skills but listens well, and he appears to understand things. Could the app help him communicate with his family? He lives with his wife and 2 young children.
Oh, hi Peter. I'm so sad. I have personal experience with that, so I understand it totally. But the answer to your question is yes. Inside, there's 3 or 4 things that can happen, which is very exciting. Inside every app of Frasil's, from my voice all the way along to my Gov and my devices, you will see a pencil. And wherever you see a pencil with the round circle, you can actually make it work for yourself. So for a person with Alzheimer's, you would make those all what your father was when he was 30 years of age, because that's basically where they go. So he's communicating in a world where he's in his 30s, and your family's in the 21st century, so there's clearly a miscommunication. But the fact that he can hear but not necessarily talk, he can communicate through Frasil, but he can communicate through his world. So you can put photos up and things like that of your house, of the home where he used to live, of the dog he perhaps might have walked around the corner, of the corner store he might have gone to buy groceries from, the clothes he might have worn, the car he might have driven. And so all of that you can create in your own way because of the personalised capacity of Frasil. So it's not hard to do. It's simply loading a photo in, clicking and uploading it. It takes it takes someone less than me, I believe less than a minute. Me, I wouldn't know where to start, because as much as I build all this, I haven't the foggiest idea how to use it, and that is actually true. So the bottom line is it can change his world and bring your world into his world and his world into your world. And it takes less than a minute to do it on each piece of thing. So there's over 1 million choices that you can put in. Just in breakfast alone, there's 1 million choices. So it's a very, very big app. And people have no appreciation for its complexity, because it's part of its artificial intelligence is it's 6 boxes on the screen. And it looks really simple to use, but it's very, very complex back end. Hence it took Deloitte 18 months to physically build it.
And talking about the complexity of it and how it can be used, is Frasil any good for people in the workplace? Another question from John. We have to thank John for all these questions.
Hi John again. I think it depends on the view of the person. I don't have a view that a person with a disability should be treated or expect to be treated any differently in the workplace. So if you look at the buttons on my jacket here, we're actually in phase 3 of a product now that my wonderful PhDs are building. And what that means is I can take a normal telephone and remove all its telephonics, and I can put a database, a link to our database in it, and I can put a Bluetooth, I think they call it, in their ear. And let's say you have a memory problem, or you want to join the workforce but you can't remember what to do, or you're socially feeling a little bit estranged. What we need to do is be able to allow you to have everything that you need to do it functioning in the app. I didn't understand that. So at the end of the day, if you are, say, working at a store, in the morning time when it's time to get up, the computer will wake you up. It makes sure that you've got the right clothes on. It makes sure you have your breakfast. It then will take you out so that you can catch the right bus. It sends a message to mum or dad or whoever you have to report to. And when you get to work, it walks you through for the day. So it actually remembers everything you're doing. And if you're in a supermarket, for example, and you want to know to go around the corner, where chocolate is, for example, it'll walk you around. But as a wearable, it's really easy to use, and it's great to actually function. The same little device over time we're now testing is that if you're visually impaired, you can actually use it to tell you what objects are down the left and right hand side of you, what's coming in front of you, where you are, what's on a menu, it reads it for you. So the technology over the next 12 months already has most of these things developed commercially, and we're now using the help of Deloitte and BCG to make those things into, I think they call them industrial, or products that the world can use. So there's a lot of stuff to come with Frasil. What Frasil's released into the marketplace at the moment is probably only 10% of its capacity.
And that follows on nicely, Fran, to the next question I have from Michelle. Fran, Michelle is asking you, will there be customisation options for different ages of users, like kids versus adult options?
Oh, Michelle, of course there is. One of my people who works here, as I mentioned him before, John, he's delightful. He's the person who has the 3 children that are disabled. And essentially at the moment he took one look at our icons and said, that won't do. And Grace's brothers, both are involved with her. And so as of next week, all the icons are being redesigned for children between roughly 2.5 and 5. And that'll take about a month. And then a month after that, we'll start converting from 5 to a 10-year-old and so on. So the problem that we have is that in Grace's case, we're not sure if it's Grace who wants more colour on the screens or whether it's her brothers. But fundamentally, it will still stay black and white because it's a very easy thing for people to use, but we will allow them to start injecting colour into things that they recognise. So the answer to your question is yes, it will. Oh, Nessie. Hello, Nessie. Thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that you think it's amazing. It's not just us, it's people like you that have helped you. Peter said, thanks, Fran. I can see how valuable that could be. I guess we're talking about his dad. I really am very sad to think that you've actually, your dad's got Alzheimer's. So I hope Frank is watching this.
It's a friend.
Oh, it's a friend. Dad. Oh, it's his friend. I beg your pardon, Peter. I thought it was your dad. But either way, it doesn't matter. You obviously care about him enough to actually tell me. But it is a wonderful tool for people with Alzheimer's.
All right. So we've got a couple more people to say hello to.
Oh, hi Ken and hi Joy and Amanda Jane and Will Banks. Thank you all, guys. It's really good. Thank you for supporting us. We appreciate it.
All right, that's good because it's given me a chance to find the next question, and that's from Vanessa. And Vanessa's asking you, what are your favourite features of Frasil?
Oh, I want to pee now. Thank you, Vanessa. I can't imagine anything worse than not being able to pee. What is my favourite part of the app? It's hard to answer that because when I did the shoot, the film shoot for the magazine with little Grace, you'll see she's laughing at me, and what she's laughing at is she's actually trying to show me a game, and I have the foggiest idea what she's talking about. I'm on some other planet. So when you see that, I think to myself how wonderful it is that she can choose her own entertainment. And then I go and I visit the next person with disability who's locked in and can't speak, and I hear their voice being reproduced so that they can actually talk. And then I go somewhere else and I'll have my feelings, and I think of Grace when she said I'm bored and she's never been able to do that before, or someone can send a message to say I'm sad, and we can ask them why they're sad, and it's just a question of pushing buttons. And I think that is, I don't know, I don't have a favourite, I don't think. I think the most difficult part for me would be if people don't take the time to actually customise it for each person. I think that would be sad, because it takes very little effort to do it, and it means that it makes a difference to a world of total interaction and involvement, as opposed to feeling isolated and left out. So I think my favourite part about it is that people can actually customise it to suit their requirements.
Yeah, it's all about being individual to them, isn't it?
Yep, it's all about the user.
All right, I've got a couple of questions from Matthew. The first question from Matthew is, how can people use Frasil to link together and come together?
At the moment, there's quite a few different ways you can do that. It gives you full access to internet. It gives you full access to all your Google and all your social media sites. You can talk to them through My Voice, but the most important part is My Family and Friends, all my friends, whichever way you want to call it, all my family. And essentially you can actually do everything, and over time it will even allow you to use the various types of telephones that are in the world. As we speak now, we're building a thing called the Frasil Cafe, and what the cafe is, it's built with androids, and these little characters are quite good fun. And so if you're fairly disabled and you're not able to go and have a cup of coffee like most people do on a Sunday, for example, you can go and you can have a cup of coffee in this cafe. And the way we have it built at the moment, they won't let me show it to you. I don't know why, because my little androids are very naughty. They pinch chips and they throw coffee around the room and they do all sorts of naughty things, so I've been made to fix it. But essentially, if someone wants to come in and converse in it, you can. And the cafe is also a social media site. And we've been approached by lots of different groups, like the Police Association that run the youth groups, excuse me, where the kids are safe, where they can come in and work together as a group to do their homework, for big meetings where people have gone every Tuesday night for most of their life to charity groups like Rotary and Lions around the world, and they can no longer go. They can be piped into the meeting. We have technology now that we're producing where you can go live to a football game, but maybe someone's not able to go because they're disabled. That can be piped straight into the computer without having to be downloaded into YouTube, for example. So there's just lots and lots of ways it can actually be used.
Well, following on from that, Fran, is how does Frasil deal with people's safety on the web and the internet?
There's two things that it does. At the moment, I can't protect it, obviously, as much as I would like to, from predators, etc., because we're only just putting it inside an Oracle system. And when we have that fully built in the next 6 months, then we can actually put around them what's called a walled garden. In the meantime, though, another product we have called Mika, you can actually bundle the products together, and Mika will actually detect online predators, stalkers, all that sort of thing, and can pick up bad behaviour online as we go. So that's a product that we've kept in the shadows at the moment because we really just want to focus on Frasil.
Okay, thank you, Fran. The second question from Matthew was, how does Frasil work with the NDIS?
I guess the NDIS, thank you, Matthew. You're obviously an Aussie. So I suppose it will work with the NDIS the same ways it might work in each of the other countries where they've got their pensions, their disability pension programs. Most of those support technology for people with disabilities. So it's a matter of the person who wants it, because in most of the countries these days the money's actually in the hands of the person with a disability, as opposed to the old way where the actual support organisation dictated who had what. So essentially when people put their plans in at the end of their year or whenever it's done in each of the countries, so Frasil can be requested. And because its price point is deliberately where it is, it means that it's impossible for them not to get it. So if you're on a pension plan or anything anywhere, you're able to afford it through whichever pension group you have.
Yeah, no, it's been a big task to make it affordable, hasn't it?
It has indeed. Price was the most difficult thing that we did, and it was one of the things that actually kept us out of the market for the longest period of time, because getting a technology this complex with this much artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks, etc. at the back end of it, it's a very complex and expensive program to deliver, and Deloitte has certainly done its part. We need to thank them greatly for their help with us, but essentially it was the price that was the biggest issue for us, to keep it at affordable so that you can actually use it. But we need you all to use it, because the more you use it, the less we have to charge for it. if fewer people use it, unfortunately, it would force the price up to cover the cost of things like SMSs and emails, etc.
Alright, so next question is from Brajesh, and Brajesh is asking, what can we expect from Frasil going forward?
Hi Brajesh, it's a great question. Every 3 months or so, you'll find new apps just start appearing. So for example, I believe today or tomorrow my home has gone up on the phone and you were unaware that it was up there. On Friday my entertainment went up. We don't necessarily plaster too much around that we've put new things up, but as we go forward we have probably a 10-year development plan ahead of us, so I can't produce the amount of technology that this thing can do. So it'll largely be driven by user feedback. So I might choose to build something that works and does X, Y and Z, but the majority of users want it to do ABC, then it would be ABC that I would be producing. But because of the incredible ability of the artificial intelligence, it becomes relatively easy for us and fairly quick for us to turn products around. So the app there will be totally in-app purchases as we go forward. So apart from the base cost, you will be able to add apps to it as you see fit.
We've got a comment from Nazumi.
Oh, Nazumi. Hi Nazumi. I downloaded the app and it's really good and easy to use. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. And can I apologise to everybody and thank everybody so much for your patience, because it absolutely wasn't easy to download when we first put it up there, and it's only in the last week that we've had it running smoothly. So, and it took us a while to get sorted out with the app stores because of the nature of the technology. So if you still have any difficulties, please persevere with us, because as soon as you let us know that you can't get in, we actually fix it straight away. Obviously we have time delays due to different hemispheres, but at our earliest convenience we will make sure that you're logged in, because we appreciate that if you're actually using it and you become dependent on it, it absolutely cannot fail. And hence the reason that we could have produced this in a different way, probably save some money rather than use Deloitte, but we used someone like Deloitte to ensure that it's got 24/7, 99% uptime. So, and also support. I was just corrected by Greg. Sorry, that's the bits I don't get. So Barket says, great user-friendly app. Thank you, Barket. That's absolutely amazing to hear, because it would be very distressing for me if it wasn't easy to use.
Well, next question, Fran, is from Ishara, and Ishara asks, what platforms is Frasil available on?
Hi Ishara, clearly you're cleverer than I am, I haven't a clue. As far as I know, my request to Deloitte was that it was to be available on most platforms, most devices and most operating systems, and they tell me that it is. So I'm assuming that that's the case. Clearly we've gone for Apple and obviously the Android and Google, but over time any platform that should become difficult for you or we're not delivering it, we would fix that in a very quick time. It also works obviously on Windows, which I was just told to be reminded that it does. So without answering the question with too much technical detail, my understanding is it works on most devices, most platforms and most operating systems.
All right, well done, Fran. Well, I think
Thank you.
we're getting close to time. We might wrap things up, and I might just, one final question for people who haven't used Frasil yet. What do you say to them, and where do they get it from?
Oh, I say you're silly. So at the end of the day, I quite mean that. When it's not until you use it, until you start to understand just what the difference actually is and the difference that it makes in communication and breaking down those barriers and making isolation less of a problem. But I think the most important thing for me is that it just makes a difference in people's lives. It doesn't necessarily improve them and it doesn't change them. It just simply allows them to be able to make choices and to be able to decide what they want to do, when they want to do it, and the way in which they want to do it. And so for me, that's what Frasil's all about. And at $1 a week US, I simply actually don't understand why people wouldn't be actually downloading it and trialling it. And after 10 years of building it for you, I sure as hope you come back and tell me whether it's great or, as usual, it sucks.
We've got a late question here from Jared. He said, is there a difference between the phone app and tablet, and is that going to continue?
At the moment, the phone has got a limited number of apps on it as we start to build it. And the question becomes, I think, more, are you going to block your phone up and make it into the device? And the answer should be no. The phone should be able to be used for people and by people, just as if you're shopping, going out, the same way we all use a phone. If you want to send someone a message, if you want to say you're running late or you need help or you're upset or someone's bullying you, that should be what the phone is used for. And sure, my entertainment on it, if you're travelling, it's great. The tablet itself though, and laptops I think they're called, fundamentally they carry all the different apps, and they have the ability to deliver much more service for you and give you a greater range. So that's fundamentally the difference between the two. But over time we will start bundling products so that you can actually choose what you want on your phone and what you want on your tablet, and you'll be able to either choose to stay with $1 a week, or you'll be able to increase it according to what you want. So it's really up to you.
Right. All right. So, any final comments? What do you want to say? Thank you to everybody, or what do you want to say in finishing off?
It's been amazing for the first time in 10 years to be able to talk to my users. So thank you everybody, and all those people who follow me on the social media sites. And if you actually watch me, you'll start to understand it's when I do feel 68. I've got absolutely no idea how to use them. I'm politically incorrect. I've got an Aussie sense of humour, and I frankly don't give a stuff. My job in the world is to, in fact, actually deliver technology that works for my users. And if people don't like it, I really don't care. But I do hope that if you are going to use it and you do use it, that you come back and tell me how I can improve it for you, because that's what we exist for here at Frasil. So thank you very much, everybody. And as I always say, good afternoon, good evening, and have a lovely day.